In our headlines this noon, a 4-alarm fire in South Minneapolis early this morning leaves 32 people homeless. The cause is still being investigated. A formal announcement is expected this afternoon from the White House that 400 Stinger anti-aircraft missiles have arrived in Saudi Arabia.
We'll begin our series of reports on the murder of Carol Thompson 20 years ago. Today, a look at what Norman Mastrian told us in 2 weeks of interviews. And a look at a special anniversary for an important astronaut. Those stories and more next on the Noon Report.
Why can't Johnny read? Diglycerides, Johnny. Cellulose gum, Johnny. Polysorbate 80, Johnny. Unlike most ice cream, the Breyers ice cream label is easy to read because we use only all natural ingredients.
Milk.
Yes, milk, Johnny.
Cream.
All right, cream, Johnny.
Strawberry.
Yes, Johnny, strawberries.
Breyers.
Yes, Johnny, Breyers, the all-natural ice cream. Johnny can read. Can you?
Now there's a choice in the land. Now there's hard ice cream at Dairy Queen. Choose luscious strawberry, rich chocolate, and more. Your favorite flavors in an ice cream as good as any you ever tasted. Now there's Queen's Choice ice cream in the land. The choice is yours at your Dairy Queen store.
In the land of Dairy Queen, we treat you right.
Imagine trying to land a fighter jet on a tiny patch of steel in the dark. Tuesday on PM Magazine, meet the daring pilots who accomplished this dangerous feat. Then, find out how former Angel Cheryl Ladd turned her life around. Pat Brown catches the action at a Twin City typing contest. Then, feast your eyes on the world's most fabulous gem collection and visit a gym for kids from 3 months to 4 years on PM Magazine, Tuesday at 6:30 on Channel 4. From WCCO Television, Minneapolis, St. Paul, this is the Noon Report. With Bill Carlson, Debbie Ely, Bud Kraling, and Tony Parker.
Good afternoon, everyone. 4 alarms were called early this morning before an apartment fire in South Minneapolis was brought under control.
Bill, the fire was reported about 1:15 this morning and was finally brought under control just before 2:30. It started in the basement of the 3-story apartment building at 3320 Nicollet Avenue South. The fire then spread to an adjacent apartment building, damaging 4 of the units. One person, Doug Dillard, was taken to the Hennepin County Medical Center for treatment for smoke inhalation. A firefighter was treated for burns, and the chief will need surgery to repair a nerve in his hand. The Red Cross is trying to help the 32 people left homeless by the fire. The cause is being investigated. Damage is estimated at $300,000. Officials say the fire started in a storage room. PCA officials are investigating a chemical spill in South Minneapolis today. 3 men apparently trying to steal transformer parts from the old Kenwood Railroad yards caused the PCB spill last night. According to police, men were trying to haul the transformers down a platform with cable. 6 transformers are reported missing. The men could not be admitted to the Hennepin County Jail because they were saturated with oil probably contaminated by PCBs. Those pipe bombs found in St. Cloud yesterday have been sent to a crime lab in Washington, D.C. for analysis. The 6 bombs are similar to those deposited in Stillwater and in La Crosse over the holiday weekend. All of the bombs in St. Cloud were safely defused and nobody was injured, but officials are concerned that more bombs could turn up. Notes have indicated that Indiana, Illinois, Iowa, and Michigan could all become targets of the violence. The notes have been left by a group calling itself the North Central Gay Strike Force, but officials say they've never heard of such a group, and it's likely that one person is responsible. Bill?
Talks continue today between registered nurses at 17 Twin City area hospitals and representatives of those hospitals to try to reach an agreement before the current strike deadline of Friday morning at 6:30. The strike would begin at 15 of the hospitals. Negotiators met with a federal mediator for 5 hours yesterday, but no progress was reported. Job seniority and wages are the central issues in that contract dispute. There's a harsh warning coming from Iran today telling other Persian Gulf countries to stay out of its war against Iraq. Iranian officials say that the countries in the region should remain neutral or they will have to bear the consequences. Meanwhile, the formal announcement of the arrival of an emergency shipment of Stinger anti-aircraft missiles in Saudi Arabia is expected soon from the State Department. The Saudis are trying to protect shipping lanes in the Gulf.
The Gulf stayed quiet this morning, but 4 days after the last reported attack on ships in the north, analysts here were interpreting the calm as a strategic pause, not the sign of an improved political climate. Military experts today said all indications still pointed to the likelihood of Iran mounting a massive assault against Iraq by ground troops soon, perhaps within the next several days. And they say both sides now are probably marshaling their air resources for that. The Iranians to back up their ground attack, the Iraqis to defend against it. The result has been a cooling off, for the moment, of the tanker war at sea. That hasn't calmed the concerns of the shipping industry, and the number of giant oil tankers which have been lying at anchor just south of the Gulf for some time has been growing. But industry sources emphasize that only a portion of the tanker fleet is idle because of new war fears. Insurance companies have drawn an imaginary line just south of the entrance to the Persian Gulf. Beyond the line, insurance rates go up. Behind the line, where the tankers sit, has become an inexpensive place to wait for business, which for some time has not been booming. Richard Roth, CBS News, Bahrain.
Diplomatic efforts continue to try to get the Soviets to participate in the Summer Olympic Games in Los Angeles. International Olympic Committee President Juan Antonio Samaranch leaves for the Soviet capital tomorrow with a letter he hopes will help convince the Soviets to change their minds. Samaranch says he'll fight until the last minute to win Soviet participation. President Reagan flies to Colorado today to visit the U.S. Olympic Training Center. He'll give the athletes a pep talk and test out some of their equipment. Debbie?
In the frantic moments of campaigning before next Tuesday's important primaries, new and not so new charges and countercharges are being talked about among the candidates. Gary Hart is accusing Walter Mondale of using what he calls tainted money. Hart is calling for Mondale to return money given to delegate groups from political action committees. Hart says he's waited 6 weeks for Mondale to return the money. Mondale, meanwhile, says that Hart's comments are just part of an effort to try to gain some delegates already committed to Mondale at the convention in San Francisco this July. Mondale campaigned for a few final moments in New Jersey this morning before heading out to California. And Jesse Jackson is making some charges of his own, attacking President Reagan's policies on Central America. Jackson is ending his trip to Mexico today. He says he hopes to pick up some delegates through the large Hispanic populations of New Mexico and California. And still to come on the Noon Report, Dave Nimmer and Doug Stone begin their series of reports on Norman Mastrian, murder suspect in the T. Eugene Thompson murder case and author of a new book on the case.
Come, let me show you Welch's Orchard. These new fruit juice concentrates have no sugar added. The juice is 100% natural. The taste is 100% new. Who else could combine Welch's grapes with apples to make Welch's Orchard apple grape juice? And taste Harvest Blend with apple, white grape, lemon, and pear. New Welch's Orchard. How do you make goodness taste so new? You do it Welch's way.
Hello, my name is Bill Kent. My brother Roger and I are professional carpet cleaners. We invented the Rug Doctor so that you can rent him and do a professional job yourself.
I'm the Rug Doctor, reminding you that there's good reason right under your feet to clean your carpets. My vibrating brush gets all the deep down dirt, lifts it up and away. There's only one Rug Doctor, steaming mad at dirt.
Call 566-3030 or check the white pages.
The difference between this silage and this silage treated with Pioneer brand 1177 silage inoculant is this silage smells better, unloads easier, it's less likely to overheat or spoil, it's more nutritious, and cows like the way it tastes. To get silage this good coming out of your silo, treat it with Pioneer 1177 going in. Talk to your Pioneer sales representative.
Bigger yields from your silo with help from Pioneer.
At the Minnesota Zoo, the whales sing. Strange creatures play in the dark. Birds smooch. Fish walk. Cockroaches hiss. And the lions live underwater. But if you think that's strange, you should see the people. The Minnesota Zoo, where fact is more entertaining than fiction.
21 years ago, Carol Thompson, a young attorney's wife, was brutally murdered in one of St. Paul's most fashionable neighborhoods. 3 men went to prison for 20 years, convicted of having played parts in the most sensational murder in the state's history. One of them is Norman Mastrian. Now out of prison and living in the Twin Cities, Dave Nimmer and Doug Stone recently spent 2 weeks with Mastrian talking about a book he's written called Presumption of Guilt. In the soon-to-be-published book, Mastrian writes about the crime, about the sensational trial that attracted national headlines, and about a legal deal he turned down. In the first of 3 parts, Dave Nimmer today examines the deal.
I served 20 years in prison for a crime I never committed.
That crime took place March the 6th, 1963, in this house in St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood. It was the kind of a neighborhood where doctors, lawyers, and businessmen lived and sent their kids to private schools. It was therefore a suitable place for a hustling young lawyer like Tilmer Eugene Thompson. And it was a shocking scene that morning when the squad cars began pulling up. Police had come to investigate a brutal assault on Carol Thompson, the young lawyer's wife and mother of their 4 children. Somehow she had managed to escape her unknown attacker and flee to a neighbor's house. She was wearing only a bathrobe and was bloodied beyond recognition. The blade of a knife was stuck in her neck. She had been beaten, almost drowned, shot at, and finally stabbed. She died a few hours later at a St. Paul hospital. Baffled at first, police soon had a theory, and it went like this. Dick W.C. Anderson killed Carol Thompson so that her husband could collect more than $1 million in life insurance. And the link between Anderson and Thompson was 40-year-old Norman Mastrian, the man police said Thompson hired to set up the killing. Stuff right out of a detective novel, but all too real for the picture book family who once lived in this brick house on Hillcrest Avenue.
Most kids in this Highland Park neighborhood probably have no idea what happened here at this house 21 years ago when T. Eugene Thompson and his wife Carol lived there. As a matter of fact, the house and the whole neighborhood have probably changed very little in the past 2 decades. What also hasn't changed are the opinions of the principals in this case. The opinion of Prosecutor Bill Randall, who has always maintained that Norman Mastrian is guilty, and of Mastrian himself, who says he was innocent back in 1963 and maintains that very same thing today. Mastrian says he was simply the victim of the hysteria of those times.
It became the most publicized criminal case in the state's history. The story dominated local newspapers and television shows for months, and reporters from New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles all came to get a piece of the action.
The conviction of Norman Mastrian was probably the best conviction had by the news media in the United States of America.
On the way to my trial on the first day in the courtroom in Duluth, a sweet, elderly, white-haired lady spit in my face. I think she called me scum or something. There wasn't anyone there that wasn't ready to hang me or beat me to death.
But before Mastrian got to that trial, he claims he was offered a deal to get off easy if he would just help nail tight the case against T. Eugene Thompson. This story of the deal, never publicized during the trial, goes like this. Then Ramsey County Attorney Bill Randall tells Mastrian's 2 attorneys he wants Mastrian to testify against Thompson. And if he goes along, he will be allowed to plead guilty to second-degree murder and get out of prison in 3, maybe 4 years. Was such a deal offered? Mastrian and his lawyers Cochran and Doug Thompson say yes. Prosecutor Randall makes himself clear.
At no time, ever, personally or with concert with my other staff members who were working with me on this, ever contemplated an offer of anything less than murder 1 for any of the 3 participants.
But in the end, it made no difference whether there was a deal or not because of what Mastrian told his lawyers from his jail cell in Ramsey County.
God. I said, no, I couldn't do it. Although it occurred to me, the flamboyant little monkey might have had something to do with his wife, and that he was going to trial first. I knew if he went to trial first and was convicted, that I didn't have a hell of a chance.
You ever regret not taking that deal? Of course, you just said to the whole world you're guilty, wouldn't you?
I wasn't guilty of anything, and I couldn't hurt my folks were hurt bad enough by my being there and by the things they were saying about me. All right. Fought a lot of big guys before, and I wasn't quitting this time either.
Your folks stuck by you all the time, didn't they?
God, how it hurt them. God. Boy, oh boy.
This image of Mastrian is not likely to touch the investigators who built the case against Mastrian.
Do you have any doubt in your mind now or then, 21 years ago, that Norman Mastrian was a middleman?
No, none whatsoever.
In the next part of the series, we'll hear Mastrian's answer to the most damaging evidence against him, the testimony of the 5 hoods who fingered him for the job, the $25 $100 bills he received from Thompson as the alleged murder payoff, and his own alibi. Debbie?
Turning now to Wall Street this noon, the Dow Jones Industrial Average is down 1.47, transportation issues are down 2.47, and utility issues off a fraction. Rescue teams are in Tulsa, Oklahoma today trying to assess the damage left by Sunday's floods that devastated parts of the city. 12 people are known dead after the flood that officials are calling the worst in Tulsa's history. Damage is estimated at more than $150,000. The same system that caused all the damage in Oklahoma has now moved to the East Coast. And hot weather in California is keeping firefighters busy this week. Hundreds of acres of brush burned about 50 miles northeast of Los Angeles. The area in danger of fires is the Long Pine Canyon area, but firefighters are trying to keep the flames from spreading. Our temperatures are finally starting to warm up, but we won't be close to the temperature in California for a while. They're flocking to the beaches as the temperatures reach the 100-degree mark. Bud Kraling will be along with our forecast next.
Menards is all decked out in savings for our big anniversary sale. Save now on the deck of your dreams. Treated, untreated, and Western red cedar decks. Decks of every size, including our 16 by 20 entertainment deck, all on sale. 8 by 10 decks start at just $59. Finish your deck by adding benches and railings. Plan your custom deck now and come to Menards for savings. Decks start at just $59 during the anniversary sale at Menards.
Big money at Menards.
Well, a hoop-dee-doo is a brand new scoop. New Oreo cookies and cream. You can't get enough of this heavenly stuff. New Oreo cookies and cream. We crunch those cookies in a dream ice cream. Is everybody drooling? Yes, indeed. US of A, it's your lucky day. New Oreo cookies and cream.
On a stick and sandwiches, too.
When we close this box, we've made our best. So when you open this box, you enjoy the best. Hot, fresh pizza delivered to you in 30 minutes or less. Because
Domino's Pizza delivers.
Brighten your day with everyday low prices on your favorite General Electric housewares. Like GE's food processor, a super work saver that chops, slices, shreds, grates, and even mixes bread dough. GE's Ultra Oven Broiler that bakes, broils, toasts, and more in a space-saving, cool-to-the-touch design. And GE's Space Maker can opener. It easily installs under your cabinet to save counter space.
Now at all Target stores.
I don't think it's widely known, but there is not an official Weather Bureau station at Embarrass, Minnesota. There's a cooperative observer who lives up there, and he's very cooperative when the temperature gets on the cold side.
Oh, a cooperative observer beats an uncooperative observer, doesn't
he's
it?
very cooperative. 26 this morning at Embarrass. He always calls down here when the temperature gets into that range. But it was 29 at Duluth, and Duluth, that's a minimum temperature record for the day. We had 38 in the Twin Cities and some scattered frost. See any frost this morning on
No, but my
rooftops?
husband was up early enough to see it.
It's 41 this morning at St. Louis, so right through the nation's center. It's some rather cool temperatures. Right now, it's sunny. Temperature at 62 degrees. Humidity 29%. Winds northeast at 10 miles an hour. Barometric pressure reading is at 30.41. The pressure is falling. So we have 62 and sunny here in the metro area. We feel like maybe second-class citizens. It's 72 degrees at East Grand Forks and Grand Forks, North Dakota. 66 degrees at International Falls. They've recovered quite nicely. Their temperature at 65 at Hibbing, 67 at Minot. Also, 67 at Redwood Falls and Alexandria. We have 62 in the Twin Cities, and you get a little cooler as you go on to the east, 61 at Eau Claire. We have what is called a north-south high-pressure ridge of cool, dry air right through the middle of our 5-state area, right through Minnesota. What it means is this. On the western side, through the Dakotas, a few clouds, maybe a few scattered showers today, temperatures in the 70s. At the eastern part of the 5-state area, which include the Twin Cities, northerly winds and temperatures pretty much in the 60s today. And sunny for the eastern part of the 5-state area, and sunny all through the western half of the country. There are a few clouds from the east coast back through the mid-Mississippi Valley and a few scattered showers there, with some heavy rains overnight from Florida up to Maine. In the Catskills and the lower Hudson Valley of New York, at least 2 inches of rain common. Just west of Charlotte, North Carolina, 2 to 3 inches. And the area around West Palm Beach, Florida, they've had 5 inches of rain just since yesterday morning. The forecast today, that storm center, which will bring rain all along the east coast today, is in western New York. Rain, incidentally, forecast again at Boston, with the afternoon temperature at 60 degrees. Partly cloudy at Birmingham in the low 70s there, 54 at Chicago. In the low 80s from Brownsville to Denver, 102 at Tucson. In the 90s from L.A. to Boise. Another very hot, dry day through the western half of the country. Here's our forecast now for the Twin Cities. Sunny to partly sunny for the afternoon, and then that translates to clear to partly cloudy tonight, doesn't it? 68 high today, 40 degrees tonight, variable winds at 10 to 20. For tomorrow, sunny to partly sunny, 73 degrees, and we're forecasting the temperatures will probably go into the 80s for the first time this year, starting on Thursday. We might be able to carry that through the weekend and have a nice warm weekend.
I forgot what 80-degree temperatures are like.
Yes, you just have to think back, well,
way
several
back.
months back.
Okay, thank you, Bud.
Hang in there, you'll find out. Still to come in the noon report. Memorial Day weather kept the fans at home yesterday. Tony Parker has a look at the big chill coming up next.
That's the 3rd time this month someone's tried to sell us universal life insurance. What do you think?
I think I'm universally confused.
We better talk with Jim.
If you've been considering universal life insurance but aren't sure, talk to someone you can trust.
Farm Bureau Insurance, may we help you, please?
Universal Life is a great new idea, and our plan is one of the best. But Universal Life may not be right for you. Ask us. We'll level with you, and we'll be here when you need us.
I don't remember who said an elephant never forgets, but Sam made me believe it.
Sam Fisher, Fisher Nut Company?
His Fisher peanuts taste unforgettable. How does he do it? I don't know how he does it.
I'll tell them. Fisher peanuts are carefully selected and roasted that special Fisher way. Then their fresh roasted flavor is sealed in.
Fisher. The flavor is unforgettable thanks to Sam Fisher. So long, showbiz. I'd follow this man anywhere.
Today on Breakaway, we'll take you inside the National Enquirer for an exclusive look at the paper that everyone hates to love.
We've got some good news for you. If your dentures are a mouthful of trouble now, they can fit almost as well as the real thing.
Plus, we'll begin a startling report from Washington on how the government is spending your tax dollars.
And Dynasty's Pamela Bellwood visits the strange world of faith healers in the Philippines.
All this and more when you join us today on Breakaway.
Don't miss the next edition of Breakaway, Tuesday at 4 on WCCO television.
Well, if you're one of those who are in favor of sports played indoors under a dome, the argument was all on your side yesterday. Rain and or cold weather wiped out a good share of the baseball schedule, including the Twins opener in Boston, and it was almost too cold for football in Chicago's Soldier Field. The foggy, wet weather in Boston makes tonight's game at Fenway Park iffy, too. As you might expect if you're paying close attention to Bud's weather forecast, yesterday's postponement cost the Twins a half game in the Western Division race. California increased its lead to a full game over the Twins on Reggie Jackson's 10th career Grand Slam homer that gave the Angels a 6-2 win over the Yankees in sunny Anaheim. Reggie's blast broke a drought of 0 for 3 at the plate. It was his 486th career homer and his 8th of this season. Well, weather may have been partly to blame for the lack of attendance at the U.S. Football League game in Chicago yesterday. The Chicago Blitz drew only 4,307 fans, even though they were hosting Herschel Walker and the New Jersey Generals. The wind chill factor at game time in Chicago's lakefront was 19 degrees, which made it seem like football weather, but it didn't generate much interest on the part of the Chicago fans. Those who were there saw Walker go over the 1,000 mark for the season gaining a good share of his rushing yardage on this 68-yard touchdown run. New Jersey won at 27-17, improving its season record to 11-3. The Blitz has won just 4 games while losing 10. Well, of course, no concerns about weather conditions for fans who want to go to the Metrodome. The 52,621 who turned out last night saw the Minnesota Strikers defeat the Tampa Bay Rowdies 1-0 on goalie Tino Lettieri's second consecutive shutout. The Strikers are now 4-1 for the season and have an 11-point lead over Vancouver in the West. There's one of Tino's stops. The winning goal came with less than 8 minutes to play when Ray Hudson sent a long pass upfield to Brian Kidd. Kidd's steamer hit the goalpost and bounced into the net. Now, Kidd, incidentally, is no kid. He's the oldest player in the Minnesota roster. In fact, he's 35 years old today. Kidd and his teammates started celebrating early, joining the huge crowd after the game to watch the Beach Boys concert that followed the victory. Needless to say, the 52,000 was an all-time attendance record for soccer in Minnesota, and probably the all-time attendance record for anybody's birthday, unless Nancy's was a little bit bigger last year, Bill.
that kid is really a kid, isn't he? You know, this has always been potentially a good area for soccer, hasn't it? Even the Kicks, though they had their problems, had a lot of support, too.
Without question. I think this is a good object lesson for teams like the Twins or anybody else, the Gophers possibly, how to get fans to the ballpark. I think these days they need a little more show, a little more fun, and it gets them out. And keep that ticket price right where it belongs, too.
Yeah, well, we're off to a good start. Let's hope we can maintain it. Thank you, Tony. Debbie?
It's that time in our newscast for our Animal Menagerie Report. Today's a special anniversary party for a special monkey. Miss Baker was one of the first monkeys in space. She celebrated the 25th anniversary of her historic suborbital flight at the Alabama Space and Rocket Center. Oh, there were no cakes for this special guest. She preferred Jell-O and bananas. Yum, yum, as she was congratulated from several astronauts who followed in her footsteps.
And with that, we wind up our broadcast for today. We hope you plan to be with us once again tomorrow.
And again tomorrow, we will continue our report on Norman Mastrian, and it continues tonight at 10 o'clock. We hope you'll join the rest of the crew at 5, 6, and 10, and have a good day.
A Channel 4 editorial on taxi regulation with Ron Handberg.
The taxi business in the Twin Cities is in turmoil. Deregulation can straighten out some of the mess, but what we really need is metropolitan licensing and standardized controls. There are 2 major problems: government-imposed limits on the number of taxis and restrictions on the cabbie's freedom to pick up fares.
Under the present patchwork system, a town taxi in Robbinsdale can haul a fare to the Nicollet Mall. But because town taxi is not licensed in Minneapolis, the driver cannot take that passenger or any other back to the suburbs. That's a real waste. Yet such artificial barriers are not the exception, but the rule. Most communities limit the total number of taxis on the street. Some have even sanctioned taxi monopolies. But lately, the suburbs have been swamped with demands. They erase the ceilings and permit greater competition. Robbinsdale and St. Louis Park were monopoly towns. Within the past few months, each has upped the number of licenses and let competing firms in. Bloomington splits 95 licenses among 3 firms. But next week, the limit jumps to 130, with 5 cab companies vying for a piece of the pie.
Meanwhile, Minneapolis holds steady at a maximum 248 cabs, the same number that was in effect at the end of World War II. Little wonder, then, that the Federal Trade Commission has picked Minneapolis as one of 2 cities targeted for antitrust complaints, charging unfair methods of competition.
An FTC study shows Minneapolis has the 12th highest taxi fares in the nation, higher than its neighbors and far higher than the area around Washington, D.C., where the market is open to vigorous competition. Of course, a certain amount of regulation is essential. The government should investigate drivers' backgrounds, check cars for safety, test meters for accuracy, and so on.
But the number of cabs and most fares ought to be dictated by the free market, with open access to passengers everywhere. A new regional transit board will be starting up in July. We think the possibility of metropolitan-wide licensing for taxis ought to be high on its first agenda. I'm Ron Handberg.
We encourage those with opposing views to broadcast replies.
I just discovered something great. A new maxi pad that works in such a different way. It's called Always. Let me tell you why Always is so different. Every pad is covered with a special material they call dry weave. It's this material that helps give me a drier kind of protection. I actually feel drier with Always, and I like that. But read the package. You'll see exactly why Always is so terrific. It'll tell you how Always helps keep you dry in a way you've never known.
New Always, a drier kind of protection that simply didn't exist until now. In maxis, minis, and panty liners.
Between you and me, I'm surprised someone didn't think of it sooner.
Freedom, the greatest gift your country gives. Help preserve it by taking stock in America. Buy United States Savings Bonds.
Italy, America thanks you for works of art by Michelangelo, automobiles by Maserati, fashions by Luciano Ciprani, and pasta by D'Amelia. Delicious pasta, made in Italy. D'Amelia, Pasta d'Italia. Another famous product from Italy. Grazie D'Amelia.
WCCO Television, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Grandma.
Betsy! Oh, it's wonderful to hear your voice, dear. Where are you?
We are in an island in the north of Greece called Mytilene, but we're coming home tomorrow. No, how is everybody? How are you and Granddad?
Oh, well, we're all right now. There was a little trouble here last night.
There was a little bit of trouble? How is Danielle?
What's the matter?
Honey, don't worry. She's fine. And so is Kim. Look, I'm going to put her on. Let her tell you what happened.
Hi, sweetie.
Hi, Kim. What happened?
Well, a couple of burglars got into the house last night, and unfortunately, I walked in the middle of it.
Kim walked right in the middle. Are you okay? I mean, is Danielle okay?
Honey, she's just fine. She was with David and Ellen the whole time. And I was knocked silly for a few minutes, but as David said, I have a very hard head, which we've always known anyway.
Kim?
I'm all right, honey. I really am. And David and Ellen came over and spent the rest of the night with us.
I can't believe you walked right in on the robbers. I can't believe it.
Well, actually, they didn't get anything. When I got here, the only thing they'd been doing was they'd been up in the attic rooting through Nick's old papers.
The only thing they went after was Nick's papers.
Let me talk to him. Yeah. Hello, Kim, it's Steve. Are you really okay?
I'm fine, I promise. Danny wasn't here at the time, and thank God, neither was Andy.
Thank God. Look, I am so sorry that you were hurt. Look, I tell you what, we are not going to take the plane back tomorrow, okay? We are going to take the first plane out of Athens we can get, and we'll be home as fast as we can.
I can't be hurt, it's too early.
These nurses broke off late this afternoon. They will resume Thursday, but no progress was reported in today's session.
The last real movement came yesterday when hospital negotiators offered changes in job seniority, the key issue. They've agreed that laid-off senior nurses have the right to replace junior nurses. They've also extended recall rights to any nurse who willingly accepts hour reductions. Laid-off nurses could also transfer to other available jobs if it required no more than 3 weeks training. The nurses say that's nice, but not enough. They want language saying the hospitals cannot hire new nurses while others are laid off. And they want reductions handled through layoffs in low seniority nurses, not across-the-board hour reductions. The nurses are ready to strike. Picket duty assignments are being made for the 15 targeted hospitals. About a dozen local hospitals, however, would not be struck. Among them, the government hospitals, the University of Minnesota Hospital, St. Paul Ramsey Medical Center, and Hennepin County Medical Center. But those hospitals are making plans.
We have established a set of physicians in medicine and neurology, surgery, psych, peds, and OB, staff physicians at the hospital they'll be making all the admitting decisions based on the urgency of the patient's situation.
Some hospitals, like the New Ridges, are hiring temporary nurses. Others, like Unity, are making do with existing staff.
We will ask, first of all, our own nurses to work additional hours, and we have numbers of nurses who are in a pool who work here, our employees, who are willing to work additional hours.
Some late developments. We've heard that many local hospitals have started transferring patients. And this afternoon, Methodist Hospital quit admitting patients except in extreme emergencies. Patients are now being sent to the Hennepin County Medical Center.
All right, thank you very much, Debbie. Well, we're going to turn our attention right now over to Mike Fairborn, who